And ABC News political director Rick Klein joins me live now, along with ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill for more on this. Jay, Congresswoman Liz Cheney says the midterm results so far show a clear victory for what she calls team normal. So how are Republicans on Capitol Hill reacting to the results so far?
Well, in the Senate side, Mitch McConnell is waiting and watching as those results come in to decide whether or not he's going to be in the majority or not. On the House side, it's a lot more complex because Republicans in the House had anticipated this red wave, this red tsunami, as you heard some say. They thought they were going to pick up 30-plus seats in the House, have an overwhelming majority. And now, if they do get into the majority, which is likely, it will be slim. And that is going to challenge leaders of the GOP in the House like Kevin McCarthy, for instance, who you see 211 is what ABC can project right now. Republicans will likely pick up some more as the days progress. But Kevin McCarthy needs 218 votes from his members to become the next Speaker of the House, which means he has to wrangle all sides of his House GOP conference. That includes some of the farther right members of his caucus, the Freedom Caucus, who want, or some of them at least, have expressed that they want someone else to jump into the race to become the next Speaker of the House.
Now, Rick, for the past 6 years, many Republicans have relied on loyalty to former President Trump to help them win. So what do these results mean for Trump's influence on the party?
This is the third straight national election where that theory has been disproven. In 2018 in the midterms, that was a rejection of Trump. In 2020, he was literally on the ballot and he lost re-election. He lost the House and then later the Senate for Republicans. And now a swing and a miss of a midterm for Republicans. It is causing some serious reassessment. Republicans I've talked to are hoping that this pulls off the Band-Aid of Trump. But there are a lot of complicating factors in this, Diane, in part that there are candidates like Kari Lake that Terry just referenced in Arizona who are very much part of the card-carrying members of the MAGA movement, in part because Donald Trump himself seems on track to still announce a presidential candidacy next week and has been firing away at some possible challengers, including the governor of Florida and the governor of Virginia, neither of whom has announced anything. So Trump is looking at 2024, even as Republicans don't know if they're going to control either chamber of Congress in 2022.
Now, Jay, President Biden is calling for bipartisanship, but he's also making it clear that he would veto any Republican attempts to ban abortion or cut Social Security. What challenges could lie ahead for President Biden if Republicans do flip the House or Senate?
Well, there is a possibility, a likelihood rather, of a pretty fraught relationship between the White House and particularly a House GOP majority because there are members chomping at the bit already to begin investigations that they've long promised into President Biden, into Hunter Biden, into the administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, into a number of issues. And so those investigations are likely to start quickly. Some of them, particularly on the House oversight side, are eyed to be beginning as early as January. If Republicans do take the majority. So that's certainly one element. Now, we know the president has said on those issues he mentioned, any rolling back of his legislative accomplishments or any attempt to ban abortion, he would certainly veto. But he said there are other issues he would perhaps work with Republicans on in some kind of a bipartisan manner. We heard Kevin McCarthy say that President Biden called him. He confirmed that call that the president first mentioned earlier this week. He said that the president congratulated him on earning a majority. This is what McCarthy said to Fox News last night. Now, again, any attempt at bipartisanship, any attempt to build a relationship between these two men who don't have much of a semblance of a relationship now would obviously be complicated when House GOP members start to roll out those investigations if they take the majority.
Rick, Senator Mitt Romney paraphrased Robert Frost in an op-ed saying, quote, two roads diverge before this potential GOP majority. The one less traveled, according to him, would be to pass bills that would make things better for the American people. He says the other would be to pursue pointless investigations, messaging bills, threats, and government shutdowns. What road do you expect Republicans to take here, and what consequences could that bring?
I don't think Robert Frost could have seen a political environment where actually both roads may be taken by different branches on Capitol Hill, different houses of Congress, and different Republicans that have different visions for the future. That's the argument that's going to play out for the 2024 campaign. And more immediately on Capitol Hill, House Republicans are going to move ahead with an aggressive agenda that they think is a mandate from voters. If they have the majority, they're going to use it. They're going to convene the kind of hearings that Mitt Romney says will be counterproductive, and they're going to push on investigations, and they're going to pass bills that they know have no chance of getting signed into law under President Biden. Republicans may take a little bit of a different path. I don't expect it to be actually that markedly different, but if they're in the minority, then they're still going to be pushing what they can, kind of messaging bills and the like. If they're in the majority, they have a different choice. But I have a hard time imagining that the Republicans in the Senate are going to be more with Mitt Romney than, say, with Mitch McConnell or Rick Scott, not to mention Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and a lot of ambitious Republican senators. Mitt Romney, frankly, the path that he was on is the path that a lot of Republicans feel like is behind them, not in front of them.
So, Jay, what does that mean if the Republicans do secure this majority? It'll still be super thin. So in order to get legislation passed, are we looking at more bipartisanship, where maybe they work to get some moderate Democrats on board, or the opposite because they have to secure support from the extreme right of the party, too?
Well, I think Rick hit the nail on the head. Any legislation that comes out of a GOP-led House, for example, would run up against that 60-vote threshold in the Senate and certainly a Biden veto. And the same goes for the Senate to a degree in the fact that you're going to see likely any legislation be a messaging legislation, right? To the extent that Kevin McCarthy can get the entire House GOP conference on board on one singular piece of legislation, which, as you mentioned, would be difficult because he's got to talk to the further right part of his party and the few moderates that remain. If he can get them on board with something, it would largely be performative because, again, there's that filibuster in the Senate and there's that veto from President Biden.
All right, Rick Klein, Jay O'Brien, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.